All right, welcome back to MMA Al Dente. I'm here to talk to you guys about Victor Henry versus Raphael Assuncao. Interesting fight. Victor Henry is a guy who came into the UFC very late for a fighter, not just age-wise, but also career-wise, professionally. He had a lot of fights, 30-plus fights, and a long, extensive career that looked very pretty. He doesn't have one shitty loss on his record, and coming into the UFC, you generally have to climb the ladder, but instead he hopped right to Raoni Barcelos and was really meant on paper to be, uh, you know, padding for Barcelos' record, I suppose. But instead he turned it all around, got a big victory in what was, I think, one of the greatest debuts ever in the UFC. Not like top 5, but top 20 maybe, top 30, whatever. It was fucking awesome. Barcelos is a well-versed, excellent fighter in his prime. And got a big victory in the last UFC event 2 weeks ago. And Victor Henry just had too much for him. That fight was very tough, too, especially in the first round. Barcelos was looking good, and Victor Henry didn't go anywhere. His chin held up, no doubt, because he was hurt in that fight, or hit in that fight, I should say. And he didn't go anywhere, just stayed in Barcelos' face. A lot of feints, a lot of movement, and a lot of volume. And eventually just started piecing him up. He hit Barcelos with a lot of quick, straight right hands that didn't even have setups, no jabs or whatever, lead right hands. He hit him with, at the end of the first round, he rocked him with these short uppercuts that he had to work to get back to his feet. He was on the ground with 30 seconds left or whatever, and it looked like Barcelos may have just positionally secured the round, even though it was dicey at that moment. But by the time the bell rang, it wasn't dicey. Victor Henry had won the round and visibly rocked Barcelos. Then Barcelos came back and looked good in round 2, and again, Victor Henry didn't go anywhere. He didn't go anywhere, and he took over that round as well. So he's just he slowed down a little bit in the end in that fight, but that's because he was permitted to slow down, because he had beaten Barcelos to the point where Barcelos was even slower than he was. And I can't overstate how cool that victory was. So, I always root for those underappreciated veterans too. And typically, I always say I root for the UFC veteran, even if the guy's got 2 more UFC fights. I'm more attached to that guy, but that wasn't the case with Victor Henry. I was kind of pulling for him in that Raoni Barcelos fight. And it was cool to see a tried and tested veteran come into the UFC and instantly level up as a fighter, step over a guy like Raoni Barcelos, and now he's fighting Raphael Assuncao, who's definitely a bigger name than Raoni Barcelos. He is a name. Barcelos isn't a name at this point. Assuncao's been on UFC posters, but this is not going to be as big of a victory if he gets it, because Assuncao is clearly on his way out. I mean, this is a guy who's been finished by strikes in his last 2 fights, and he was rocked against Marlon Moraes a few fights ago, 4 fights ago, and he's 0-4 in his last 4 fights. Against great competition, yes, but, when your chin starts failing you out of nowhere, where it never failed you before through all those wars with TJ Dillashaw and Marlon Moraes the first time, and Aljamain Sterling, and whoever the hell else he fought, and his chin didn't go anywhere aside from when he was knocked out in his UFC debut by Eric Koch, who was a big, monstrous featherweight, and that was a mismatch. Aside from that, his chin never failed him until recently. That would be a story. That would be indicative of something if he was 30 years old. But he's not. He's 40 years old. So it's more than indicative. It is, there's no going back at this point. His chin is done. So Victor Henry, even though he doesn't hit as hard as Cody Garbrandt, I want to say, and maybe not even as hard as Ricky Simone. Ricky Simone is not Mr. Striker guy, but he's definitely packs a right hand, and he put him out with a right hand from hell. Victor Henry, though, he hits very accurately. The volume is there, and volume and accuracy can knock you out too. It's not all a matter of power, even though Victor Henry does have power as well. Again, I haven't seen Barcelos staggered aside from with Victor Henry. So, I'm inclined to think Victor Henry gets him out of there. So far, I've played the under at under 2.5 rounds plus 135. I've liked that because it's been the only thing available, but I want to see Victor Henry via TKO, what those prop bets are. I'm waiting for them to be released. the money line on Victor Henry's minus 350. There's nothing there. You're better off playing Assuncao at plus whatever, because Assuncao is a game fighter. If he's not getting knocked out, he's probably going to be in the fight with his counter-striking game. But even on that front, his movement is slowed down, and he's going to be behind on points against a guy like Victor Henry, I think. I don't think that counter-striking is going to work so effectively. I think he's going to be reluctant to throw out those leg kicks in the middle of a firefight with a guy who's got reach and height. Assuncao is thinking about his own chin as well. I guarantee it. And maybe that'll help him protect his chin, of course, fighting to protect his chin, but it's not going to help him win the fight. So that's the thing I'm most sure of, is that the fight ends. But the things to bet on are Victor Henry getting the TKO. All right. Thanks for tuning in. Like, share, subscribe, all that horse shit, and the notification bell and whatever. And take your vitamins.